It's almost Tennessee basketball's turn to take center court in the SEC tournament over in Nashville. Who will they play? That is to be determined at this point since they have the nice double bye starting in the quarterfinals. But we're going to break down how Tennessee might do in the SEC tournament, or at least how they have been doing. Paige Dauer alongside Jimmy Hyams. Rick Barnes maybe undeservingly has the second round bye coined to him, or second round out coined to him when it comes to the NCAA tournament. When it comes to the SEC tournament, it's been a little up and down recently, but better for Tennessee since Rick Barnes has been here.
It has been. He is 11-7 in the SEC tournament. There was one tournament that wasn't played because of COVID in 2020. He has won the SEC tournament once. He did it in 2022. Now, the last time Tennessee won the SEC tournament was 1979. Tennessee lost in the second round that year. They had two other times when Tennessee made the finals under Rick Barnes. 2018, they lost to Kentucky in the finals. 2019, they lost to Auburn in the finals. The 2018 team that lost to Kentucky lost in the second round. The team that lost to Auburn made it to the Sweet 16. So they've not had great success when they've made the finals of the SEC tournament. Last year they got blown out early and made the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
So, but that's his record. It's again 11-7. He's had success in that tournament, making 3 finals in the last 7 or 8 years. That's pretty darn good.
It's important to make the right decisions, like when to go for it on 4th down, or when to kick the field goal or go for the touchdown. It's also important to make the right insurance decisions too. That's why my office, Trey McAdams State Farm, is here to help you select the right protection at the right price. Our office will make sure you understand your State Farm coverages, so you'll know what to expect when the unexpected happens. With Trey McAdams State Farm, it's easy to make the right call. When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Proud sponsor of the Tennessee Vols.
A.G. Hines Company. They've been around for over 100 years, selling building materials since anyone can remember. Andrews Physical Therapy at Blaine and Strawberry Plains. That's where I've gone to rehab my knee, shoulder, and elbow. When rubbing a little dirt on it ain't good enough.
Is maybe just have your bench play, give them some minutes, and whatever happens, happens. Because you're not going to be able to put Zakai and Jemai out there and just be like, hey, lose this game, you know?
No, yeah. Well, that's not the DNA of Rick Barnes. It's not the DNA of Ziegler or Meshack or his team. They will give every effort to try to win the game. One thing that Rick Barnes did say, though, about his team, and I agree completely, he said they can improve in a lot of areas. As good as they've been, the fact they've had 25 wins for the 4th year in a row, they're ranked in the top 10, number 6 in the coaches poll, in the final regular season poll, they still can get better in some areas. So that's what I think he's going to be working on. Should he use his bench a little bit more? Probably. Would he do it late in the game at the risk of losing it?
No.
So I think they'll play to win it and see how they do. The other thing to think about in this, so there's the thought of if you lose early, you rest up, you're more prepared for the NCAA tournament. The other part is that if you win the SEC tournament, you will be, I am convinced, a number 1 seed. Program has never been a number 1 seed. So what is more important? Being a number 1 seed, you've never done it before, or being a 2 seed and you're rested?
Yeah.
So that's a debate that's out there. I can see it both ways. To me, it's more important to make a run in the NCAA tournament, but there's still no guarantee.
Yeah.
Theoretically, if you're the 1 seed, your bracket should be easier. Here's a problem with that this year for Tennessee. If Tennessee's the 1 seed, and they're the last 1 seed, where do they start play?
Right.
San Francisco. If you're the 2 seed, there's a good chance you go to Lexington.
Correct.
Or the other 2 brackets, you could stay in the Eastern time zone. So there's a benefit to that as well. So you would like to have.
It's a game of chess, Jimmy.
Yeah,
What do they want? How do they want it? And how do they get it done?
You'd like the feather in your cap to be the first Tennessee team ever to be a 1 seed. But you'd also like to go back to the Elite Eight if you can get there, right?
Yes.
What's the best path? Who knows?
Right.
But I do think, even if they lose early in the SEC tournament, it was proven last year that by doing that, you can still make the Elite Eight. And Tennessee's only been to the Elite Eight twice in program history. So we'll see how it unfolds.
And I think beyond what those potential matchups could be in the NCAA tournament, it's a lot more favorable travel wise and the wear that has on your body to start, not only because it's the Eastern time zone, but it's a 3-hour bus ride to Lexington versus having to get on a flight, go cross country, and then be in a place that you're not entirely familiar with and what that might look like for you. I think even logistically, maybe that 2 seed it's more appealing than maybe it has been in years past, because you're the 1 seed, but you're the last 1 seed, and that's not a very favorable position for you. And then you don't get as many fans. You know how many fans would go to Lexington if they get that 2 seed as compared to, if they are going to make the Final Four and I could go to San Antonio, do I buy a ticket for that or for the first round? You're really splitting your fans if that happens. Yes. It's a problem, but I guess a good problem, but a problem nonetheless.
And it's a good point. Now, having more fans doesn't guarantee a win, but having more fans can certainly help.
Yes.
And how many would go to San Francisco?
I mean, we heard how they felt against Vanderbilt when Igor and all of them were like, it's a lot louder than we thought, how they did in the jungle and how loud that was. So fans definitely make an impact for better or worse. Yeah. But I think when you go back to the SEC tournament and maybe what it will look like, I definitely think them being able to win it for the first time, I think you said since 79, was it?
Well, they won in 2022.
Correct. And then
in 1979 was the other time they won the SEC
So
tournament.
it's been a long time, one in between those, and then to just be able to go out and do it, I think there's a lot of bragging rights to be able to do that, and especially with how hard it is to get to a Final Four, I think to be an SEC champion carries a lot of weight when you look at it program to program and what it means for those types of programs.
And you would have won the SEC tournament in a year when the SEC's never been better.
Yes.
Never been better.
Yeah.
And people say, well, why is the SEC getting so much credit? Well, here's why. Because they went 21-7 against ranked opponents in non-conference. That's the best record ever. Nobody had won 21 games against ranked non-conference opponents going into your conference schedule. The other thing is the SEC won 89% of its non-conference games. That's the best record the SEC's ever had. I think the SEC is like 30-4 against the ACC this year.
Yes.
The only conference where they've really struggled, in which they've played a number of games, is the Big Ten.
I saw some crazy stat too, and I think it was correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the worst team in the SEC still went 3-0 against the ACC during that mixed conference play earlier in the year. So if you're wondering, is the SEC as good as people say it is, let's just look at that stat alone and be done. And that tells you what you need to know.
Yeah, and then the SEC-ACC head-to-head challenge, the SEC went 14-2.
Exactly.
And the losses were by Auburn and Kentucky.
Yeah, of all teams.
Two really good teams.
Yeah.
But that just tells you how good this league is.
We have an exceptional group of attorneys that work here. We're all trying to be better attorneys, be better advocates for our clients, be better people.
It makes me proud to be part of the team when I see how much the attorneys care about their clients.
It's truly one vision. I feel like every single person who works here has that same vision, and that's to treat all of our clients like family.
We've developed such a tight-knit team. Everyone is unified in being selfless in their representation.
The Garza Law Firm. Let us help.
So to be the tournament champion, that's very good. But I still think I would personally, and I think Tennessee fans would trade that if you can get to the Elite Eight or Final Four. Now again, you can get there as a 1 seed. Is it harder to do if you have to start in San Francisco? Possibly.
Yeah.
And I can hear it right now. If they're the 1 seed and they lose, boy, there's going to be a lot of complaining.
Yes.
But if they're the 2 seed and they make the Elite Eight,
who cares?
Right.
Yeah. And I think, understanding how Rick Barnes has talked this year, that Final Four is something he so desperately wants, and I think he's been more vocal about it this year than maybe years past. So I could almost see certain lineups being out there that give them reps, give them a little bit extra minutes, give your guys a little bit time to rest, but you're not going out there and just getting embarrassed, because I think there's a lot that happens with momentum and morale. Like, you want to go out there, put out a good product, whatever happens. You don't want to go out there and just be like, I'm just going to put out this horrible lineup and we'll see what happens. I'm also curious, when we think about rest, they're starting with a double bye, so at most they're playing 3 games. So what's the difference between playing 1 game versus 3 games? Like, how much more wear do you have on your body when that happens?
There's more wear and tear because of this. One, you're exerting tremendous energy. If you're going to beat your first opponent,
Yeah.
and then likely Auburn,
Yep.
then likely Florida or Alabama.
Alabama, yeah.
So you've exerted, and then that last game is when? Sunday.
Yes,
Sunday
at
afternoon.
noon, yeah.
And you may then play Thursday.
That's true.
That's a quick turnaround.
Especially if you are in San Francisco, because
Yes.
you win it.
Right. So that's.
And if you don't win it, I mean,
yeah.
I guess you're in Lexington.
So I
but-
think there's wear and tear from that standpoint of exerting a lot of energy and then having potentially a quick turnaround. Now you may have to play till Friday. We don't know that yet.
Yeah.
But if you go Sunday to Thursday, that's even for college kids, and I was once one of them.
You were. I
know you can't remember that long ago.
Yeah.
But,
Did you have cars?
oh no, we drove a horse to school.
Horse and buggy?
Yeah, but so I think there is a difference in that in
Yeah.
terms of how much wear and tear there is with Tennessee. Now, having said that, Tennessee's got a veteran team. They got guys that have been playing on a big stage, in particular Meshack and Ziegler. They're used to this, so I don't think they'll be impacted. Somebody knows more basketball than me said if Tennessee's a 1 seed, there's more pressure on them.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, it's not going to be more pressure on Ziegler. It's not going to be on Meshack. But it could be on Milicic, who's not played in a big game like this. Could it be on Akpara? Could it be on Lanier, who came from North Florida to the big stage at Tennessee? He's played big in big games on big stages for Tennessee.
Yes.
NCAA tournament's a little bit different. How would he respond to that? I don't know. I do think there are enough really good players on Tennessee's team to where the pressure of being number 1 will not affect them.
Sure.
But could it affect your center? Could it affect your 7th player coming off the bench? I don't know. But I guess a part of me would say if you're the 2 seed and you lose early and you've got rested up and you got a better draw in the NCAA tournament, I wouldn't be bothered by that.
So as we warm up our viewers to take a loss as a win in the SEC tournament, do we believe reaching that Final Four? I mean, we saw this year possibly Alabama gave their players rings for making the Final Four. Is that more important for Rick Barnes' legacy, for the legacy of this team, for the final game of the seniors to make it to the Final Four, or to win the SEC tournament, be a number 1 seed?
Oh, the program getting it to the Final Four, because it's never been there.
Right.
They haven't won many SEC tournaments, but they have done that.
Yes. Okay.
They've never been a 1 seed, but to me, it's far more important to be in the Final Four than to be a 1 seed. There are plenty of 1 seeds that don't make the Final Four every year.
Yeah.
I think once all 4 made it, there have been a couple of years where 3 number 1s have made it. Most of the time, it's a 2, 3, or 4, or 5 that get in there in the Final Four. So if you get to the Final Four, that, to me, that is the most important for the program. And then secondly, in the program and the players, then secondly is Rick Barnes. At least he's been to 1.
Yes.
Now, he's only been to 1 in 38 years.
Correct, at Texas.
In
yes.
Texas, he got there. And that was a little over 20 years ago, if I remember right. But I think for this program to get to the Final Four and to finally get that monkey off its back,
Yes.
that would be huge. One thing I like about what Tennessee's been able to do is when Ziegler either didn't play well, got in foul trouble, they found a way to win. They beat Florida without Ziegler. And Milicic.
Yeah.
Okay? And then South Carolina, Ziegler didn't play very well, and they still won anyway. Now, a lot of the bulk of that came from Gainey playing the point.
Yep.
Boswell can play the point too, certainly not as well as Gainey. But that, if you get into a bind in postseason play, it's nice to know you could rely on them and they have enough experience in that role. Right now it's kind of hard to give them a lot of experience in the SEC tournament going into the NCAA tournament because at max you play 3 games.
Right.
But I'll be curious to see what he does with the lineup and how much rest he tries to give his players. I can remember back in the 1980s, there was a coach at LSU named Dale Brown that wanted to do away with the SEC tournament because he said all you do is exert a lot of energy and then you're tired when you get to the NCAA tournament. So he started throwing that out there in the 80s.
Yes.
That's how long ago this argument has gone on.
It has so many legs. We're still talking about that concept. Yeah, that's crazy.
It does. So we'll see what Tennessee does, but I expect Rick Barnes to go in with the mindset we're going to try to win this basketball game. I also expect him to come out with the mindset of if they lose a game, he's not going to be terribly upset.
Right. All right. Well, I like that breakdown. We'll see if they win or lose. I think we'll be happy regardless what happens. I'll be in Nashville covering the team as long as they're playing. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on those post-game reactions and the special content that we'll have while we're in Nashville. We'll talk to you guys later this week.